Well, hello, SPAC friends and family. It's shortly after 2 o'clock here on the West Coast, and it's Tuesday, so you know it must be time for SPAC Chat. I'm coming into you from San Diego because, I can do my work wherever there is Wi-Fi. And so I will be quiet most of the time because I'm sitting in a hotel lobby right now, a little bit of ambient noise. But before we get onto that, folks, I wanted to tell you that the speaker applications for speaking at SPAC 2025 has gone out, and it is posted on the website as well as also on our Facebook page. QR code, simple application, tell us your ideas, and we will be checking that out. Deadline is July 1st, so please make sure you take care of that before you decide to go on summer vacation. Okay, today, you know what season it is. It's graduation season. And so we're here to talk about graduations with someone who's doing quite a ton right now. And I'm going to turn it over to our host, Calvin Harrell.
Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning and good evening. No matter where you are, we're happy to see you. And thank you for joining us from all over the world. Graduation season is upon us. And while many graduations are already set in stone with the schools and their representative vendors, we do have the opportunity now to look at the program or to talk with Mr. Mark Hommerding, who has a phenomenal program. This is his busiest weekend. But here's the value proposition that this particular discussion has, and that is that right now is the time to do the assessment, the evaluation, and the starting of the building of your program so that you can reach out to the schools as they go through their graduation process. They will experience some certainly, none of Mark's. Some schools will experience dissatisfaction. And when there's pain, that's when we have opportunity. Well, the best time for us to reach out to those schools is right during the graduation service season because they'll not be having return calls or other matters that they're dealing with. So without any further delay, Mark, welcome. Let's hear it. You
Thanks.
said this is your busiest weekend, and you gave a number that I don't even remember. It was so staggering.
Yeah, between last weekend and this weekend, we have 340 some graduations. We have, I know we have 182 coming up. Yeah, 182 coming up this weekend.
Yeah. So are you doing schools all over the country, Mark?
Yeah.
That's
we
500 graduation services that you're doing.
Yeah, we have two. We do business as two companies. One's called the Grad Team, so you can look us up on thegradteam.com, and the other is called Graduation Photo. We do graduation photos mostly based in the Michigan area and surrounding states there, and the Grad Team we're all over the country for that one.
Okay, wonderful. That helps. It explains a lot, but there's a whole lot of, and forgive me because I'm just shaking. It's not an earthquake. I have a standing desk, and so it shakes if I start to write. The challenge that you have is even more vast when you're dealing with multiple marketplaces and that sort of thing. We'll get into, maybe you can give us some highlights on how to market when you're not in a specific market, a specific area of service, because clearly you're doing some special marketing to have access to and to gain those types of clients. Let's talk about the process of graduations from your perspective and what the opportunity that it presents.
So I got into graduations because at the time at the beginning of my career, I was working for companies that did that. And when I was in the early 90s, I moved out to Iowa and joined a company called Jolish Photography, and the founder there had booked a number of graduations. And before I got into the volume business of schools, I basically, as I told my friends at LifeTouch when our company was acquired by them, I was feasting on the crumbs that you guys didn't want to eat, which were the graduations, the proms, the senior class groups, and some of the sports stuff. Some of the stuff's around the schools, and so they weren't just a service item for me. They were actually a place where I could make some money.
Interesting. This is one of those conversations that it's very valuable to everybody to understand that there are elements that's of a school that some vendors, photographers don't really want to service. Those are called pain points for the school, because the school would love to have a single contact, a single phone call. If there's a challenge or an issue related to photography, they know exactly who to go to go to, et cetera, and
Yep.
they get used to the response times and that sort of thing. So you built a business on the basis of somebody else's reject, and you've been able to build it and be extraordinarily successful, clearly.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. Yep. And then go ahead. You're going to
So
ask a question.
what do you find to be the greatest go-to that the schools are looking for in the way of service? Because you're covering from the university market through the high school market. I don't know
Yeah.
if you go any lower than that.
We do a couple smaller ones, but they're not really part of they're just fringes. Most of our sales volume comes from the universities because we do those nationwide. At the high school level, we're mostly around Michigan, where our school picture business is based, because it's a natural extension to the school business, right?
Okay.
So, and then the problem is just usually they're all occurring on roughly the same day. So you have a large district, you can have camera allocation in the fall. They're going to all, the entire district's going to go on one weekend in June or something, because the board of directors doesn't want to spread it out over a month. And then the next district right over the street wants to do it on the exact same weekend. And that's a challenge. And so if you're not operationally ready, that's just something that's very difficult to pull off.
And we're talking about volume. Of course, you could do one or two schools and they're spread out, but we're talking about volume in this conversation. One of the challenges, and we spoke to it prior to coming on, one of the challenges, staffing. Creating a staffing pool of competency at an affordable price point. And affordable in our minds as business owners, we understand the bottom line. Oftentimes, those people that are winging it out there, call them freelancers, call them, or whatever you want to call them, they don't have the same comprehension of the cost of actually doing the business. So we spoke to the idea, and it's a formula that I use, and that is you add a stipend for using personal equipment. If you're going to use personal equipment, that stipend could be 50, 75, $100 for using their own equipment, which elevates the price, but they're familiar with it. They're going to have more consistency with it, et cetera, et cetera. So how are you seeing that in your markets that you're serving?
So I want to hire somebody that already knows how to play the instrument, if you will. So, my line is, it's generally cheaper in the long run to hire a string quartet to play at your wedding than it is to buy, a couple violins, a cello, and whatever, and hire rookies and try to teach them how to play the music. I already want to hire people that know how to play the music and use those instruments really well. In this case, I want to know that they know how to use their cameras well. And so when I'm talking to a potential photographer for us, I'll usually ask them, I'll just say, so tell me about your equipment. And at that point, I shut up and listen. If they say, well, I've got a camera and I'm not sure, what lens is with it, came with it, that's generally when I know that they're going to start kind of on the lower end of things. If they say, I got a Nikon D550 or an 850, and I got an 80 to 200 2.8, and I got an SB 910 on the top. If they're talking where they really know their gear right there, I pretty much know that they're going to be just fine. And then the biggest challenge isn't technical; it's getting them to photograph the way we need to photograph in order to market to those to the students in the end run, or their parents more accurately. So it's the technical aspect is one thing, and then the marketing is another. But just hiring the people, it's challenging, and I already know that it's on these very specific time frames.
Yeah, and I would presume that this element of the business is a year-round process, whether that be the recruiting or the marketing, and it's a full year-round process. Certainly, with the volume that you're doing, that's more volume than the vast majority of people will desire to do or will achieve, unless they come up with some formula to make it happen.
So
Technology-wise, though, when you talk about the training, to get it to photograph it the way you want to photograph it, I would think that since you're photographing in multiple states around the country, all over the country, are you using video training tools, or what are you doing for the training so that they can get up to speed quickly?
So we did a couple things. First of all, for the people who've worked for us a little bit longer, we flew a bunch of people in, about 50 of us in from around the country, and we had a weekend training in our building here. And for the key in each region, I have some folks that we call campus lead photographers, and they all came in town, and we spent about a week together. our leadership team, we've worked together for, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 years now. There's a group of us, we've been through thick and thin. We were acquired by Big Blue. We left Big Blue. We're now independent as the grad team. It's been a hell of a journey. And those people, I'd fall on a sword for those guys. And so that group, we met for a week, and then we brought in everybody else over the weekend. And then they promulgate those things out to the field with the photographers they're working for. So we also have some basically PowerPoints that we can walk people through, and here's what to expect. And then you've just got to pair rookies with veterans and make sure that the event goes well that way.
Okay, cool. Are you working, and I'm interested in the staffing component for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
And when you find someone, do you attempt to book them on a contract basis? Hey, you got this many jobs. This is what your reward's going to be. This is your pay for the month or whatever.
No. It's we pay by event. And so like earlier, 2 weekends ago, I was at Rush University, and those people, I had worked with a graduation with them in September in Chicago. And I said, hey, you free this weekend? I booked them 8 months in advance. One of the guys actually, I try to book these well in advance. And when we were working on, we had our schedule for this spring finalized sometime in January, and we have something like 1,200. Hang on a minute. We have between this week and the last week, and we had about 1,150 assignments that we got to cover. And so of those 1,150, I'm going to say 800 of them were filled by March. And now the last couple are being filled. Like there's people on the phone while I'm on this SPAC chat trying to fill the final hole. And the final hole is always the most expensive one. I always say the last hole is $5,000 because you're flying somebody from LA to, I don't know, Kansas to cover a small school because that photographer called out that, hey, my father went in the hospital. I can't cover that grad. And now it's scrambling to cover that last hole. And you never know where the last hole is going to be. You just don't. So you suck it up, and the last hole is very expensive. But you want to go early so that you can get these things covered, and you kind of lock them in, especially the veterans. They know that they're going to be asked to, especially the good veterans, they know that they're going to be asked to return to those schools that they've gone to before, just because I want to have that that continuity with the client so that they invite us back for next year.
How very interesting. I had a question regarding the process of the actual, how does your process work? How have you developed your process? Are you using your own platform? Are you using an outside vendor's platform?
Yeah.
How are you working that?
Okay, so that's a really good question. In fact, that's probably the most important question in this whole thing because of all the audience, right? So there are some homegrown systems we have, but in terms of the after the event process, there's a number of vendors who are at SPAC, right? And that you can go visit. I use Candid Color. They've been an amazing partner to me. I've been working for them with them in one capacity or another for almost all my career, and they've been a very, very valuable partner to me. And if anybody, you just send me a message. I'll be happy to introduce you to the folks there if you're interested in using their platform. All of my major competitors use that as a platform as well. That said, I've got some very, very good friends in the business that say Mike Norkin at Cherished Memories, for example. I believe they use Photo Day. That's another platform that I know works well. Waldo is another one. We've used them for some action sports. They have some commencement capability. And then our mutual friend Mike Sheesby, he's runs Jalea Tech there. They're involved in Pick ID. That they're doing something, and Bob Winkler's now working with him to try to develop that as well. So there's other solutions out there. For my money, I'm working with the best, and that's Candid Color.
And they're a platinum sponsor, so it's cool. The others are platinum sponsors as well. These are the best of the best for our industry, certainly. Yeah. The average orders that you're receiving, I know they change based on the demographics and the location of the school and the level of degrees that are being. I would think that all of those types of factors come into the equation. What are you finding is best relative to margins on a per head basis high schools or the university market?
Oh, colleges are better. High schools, your high performing high schools are going to be probably next. And then underneath that will be lower performing high schools, and then community colleges. Community colleges tend to be a little bit rougher for whatever reason. And kind of an interesting thing, if you go to a high school and let's say we have 500 seniors, you know that 478 of them are going to show up for graduation, right? You're going to have almost all of them show. When you're at a community college, they could have a full-time enrollment of like 30,000 and you'll photograph a graduation with 800 people there. It's just not there's people that show up and cheer and they're very excited and I'm happy to photograph, but they're just not the high performers in terms of dollars per participant. And I measure everything on that particular.
And are you differentiating pricing, the end user consumer pricing, based on those known demographic conditions?
I don't. And my thing is because I want to be able to just walk in and if you say, what's my price? I can say, here's what it is. And I usually just start with, look, you can buy a picture for less than a Happy Meal going through the drive-through at McDonald's. So, hey, if you're, or pizza, right? So it's like, it's affordable. If you're really interested in preserving this memory, you can pay less than a price of pizza or for a pizza, then, we have you covered. And everything for us is a proof model, 100% proof, right? So in that regard, I can't outprice and I'll tell, Mr. Calvin, Principal Calvin, of course I can't charge mom too much because if I do, she's not going to buy and then I won't be in business. So I have to charge something that's fair to mom so that she's able to purchase and buy memories for her family. And so that it's almost a non-factor. It's all about the service at some point because they can't be screwed up.
I would agree with you. I think one of the questions that people often have, they get into the weeds about their pricing, when the fact of the matter is you have to make sure that there's one very attractive, affordable price that the school sees, and the school will say, oh, he's reasonable, and that's it. They really don't want to get into the, into the manifest of prices and see every, they're not counting square inches of paper. Let's put it that way. I should say, most are not counting. They don't get into that. They're looking for the relationship and they're looking for what are the services you're going to provide. So with that in mind, are you providing any services to the schools outside of actually photographing them and providing the opportunity for their clients to order?
Usually no. There are exceptions. There's exceptions on everything, right?
Definitely.
So the nice thing about when I'm at a graduation, I'm there for 4 hours, start to finish at a high school graduation. And I don't have to deliver calendars. I don't have to deliver stickers for their folders, their CUME folders. I don't have to worry about printing ID cards. It's just done. It's very clean. I love that aspect about it. We upload the images, we're done. And I just wait for the money to come on in at that point.
So Mark,
go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
The only negative is the cash flow issue. Like, got a lot of photographers out in the field. And they want to be paid now. They don't want to wait until your cash is in. So that's the only drawback of the model. And but that's part of the business. It's really hard, and that sucks about the business, but also is really good because there's barriers to entry in that regard.
We see on the various Facebook pages oftentimes, especially when you have new people coming into the industry, questions related to, hey, what do you charge to go out to the school to photograph X, et cetera. It's very interesting, some of the dialogue and some of the responses that happen. Do you charge a setup charge to a school for the services that you're offered relative to the graduation so that you have a guaranteed baseline?
Depends. Most of the time it's no. So if I have a high school of 500 kids, it's going to be no, just by default. If I have the entire school district and it's the alternative high school of 30 kids, it's free, right? Because you've got these other mitigating factors. It's become a service item. But if it was, Calvin University and you had 43 graduates, I'd have to charge you a sitting fee because I know at that point I'm not going to make any money. I'll pay the photographer more than my gross sales will be at some point, right? So you just kind of work in kind of, your numbers well enough to know whether or not it's going to work. Same with the school district, right? There's some school districts that have a better SES and you're looking that you have to pay them a rebate. There's some schools that have a low SES and you have to charge them for the ID cards. I mean,
Hey.
otherwise you're going to go out of business, right? So,
okay, Mark.
Yeah.
Explain to folks what the SES is.
Oh, sorry. Thanks for that question, Calvin. Socioeconomic status. So
Yes.
it's basically what kind of neighborhood you're in. And so, for instance, here's an example. If I pull into a parking lot and there's a Starbucks across the corner and they have a lacrosse team and they have a high school marching band and they have an orchestra, they're not getting a sitting fee because I'm already going to make a lot of money from that school. And I just know it. And as much as I want to be fair and provide the exact same service to everybody, I just can't, because otherwise we're in business to make a profit. And as much as I'd like to be a charity and be able to, give the same service to everybody, I just can't. So,
yeah, one of the things if you don't have a chart with a list of where you're hitting if you were out in the field canvassing, one of the things is if you're driving in through an area and there's a significant number of apartment buildings or unkept lawns and a variety of other things, that's not necessarily going to be the most beneficial account to have. Yes. It's just it is just the way it is. Now, it doesn't mean that they're a bad account. It's just your expectations should be metered based on the demographic that we're serving. And I think that a lot of times people get away from that. The interesting piece is, and it's understood when you talk about a very small school, 43 kids for a graduation, where you might have to bring a photographer in to service them. Clearly, that's a real challenge. But I've always been of the opinion, I don't know if it's the right opinion or not, but we are a service-oriented business.
Yes.
And as such, we've got to provide the service, because when you folks have to, in my opinion, have to recognize that when you get that invitation to do business with a school, for instance, that administrator knows what his situation is at his school, his or her. And when they leave, even though the school that they're in right now is not the beneficial school, when they leave and take a new assignment, you're either going with them or you'll never get in the front door because you've not allowed yourself to develop a relationship. And people have to understand that. Corey, you got something?
I have a question. So for some of our basic, maybe new photographers going into this branch of the business, do you have a rubric by how many photographers per how many students you need to staff? And the second one is, do you do the action, grip and grin, and then a second station of post?
Okay, I'm going to answer those in reverse order. So the second question, do I do a grip and grin and a pose photo? Yes, absolutely. The reason is because unlike most of what we do in graduations, we don't control the sit. We have to react to it. So it's more like action photography at football, more than the portrait that you take before the season begins, right? You're taking it as the action unfolds. So the grip and grin is if they're not turning and posing to the camera, it's a lot more random. You could have the tassel on the face, whatever. When they come off the stage and I get that second shot, depending on the speed of the graduation, that's going to matter, right? So if we're at a 3-second pace is pretty fast. If they're at a 5-second or more pace, I'm going to definitely have time to get that second picture. In terms of the number of staffing, you go by a couple of things. The most important is it a single or double line, right? So if it's a double line, I've just doubled my labor right there, whether I want to or not. So with the number of photographers, you vary it according to what the demands are by the ceremony itself, and then whether or not you can support an additional person or not. So generally speaking, let's say you have a graduation of 175 kids, small high school. If that's not a single line, I'm going to be upset because I'm going to just send 2. If I got a school of 500 and it's a double line, then I'll send 4. I might have a floating 5th, somebody to kind of make sure everything's going okay. But generally speaking, I'm going to have 1 for the handshake and 1 for the portrait. It just depends on what's going on. If you like, I can show you some samples of that.
It's based on lines. Now, here's to me, what level of influence as the photography company do you have on the way that the graduation is set up and run?
If they trust you, a lot. If they don't, 0. So My coaching or our coaching, we have on our grad team logo, there's no known Sierra is our little, it's Latin for do no harm. And it's from, in the coaching that I developed years ago, I would say, and by the way, full shout out to my friend and colleague, Tom Dowsner, who made our logo. But it came from our training for, I would say it's like the physician's creed. We do no harm to the ceremony. We're there. We're like the t-shirt salesman at a ball game. We're there providing a memory of an event. We're not the event. When we're at school pictures for the day, we are the event. At this one, we're not. So the graduation will happen whether we're there or not. If we don't show up for picture day doesn't happen. So it's just important to keep that in mind. So anyway, in most high schools, they want to run the show. At the colleges that I work with, because they know I'm pretty good at my job and I've been doing it for years, they'll seek me out for advice, and they'll actually structure some things once I recommend them, because they know that I'm an expert in the industry. So the more, I guess, professional the organization is, and the more they want to have the best advice possible, that's when I can have, ironically, the most influence.
Sounds to me like we're back to that word, relationships.
Yes.
Yeah. It's one of those things. When you get in the back room, principals are no different than anybody else, coordinators, et cetera. And they know who the problem parents are, who the problem kids are. They know what they're doing. They always love us to be consultative and provide them with beneficial information that can help their program go better. Just be prepared. You can come in with a program or have a desired way to do things. Be prepared to have all the tools ready to go. Correct. Whether that be the marks on the floor, whether it be arrows for people, whether it be stops, whatever it might be. If you can say, hey, we'll take care of that for you, school. This is what we're doing. I think that's an incredibly valuable place to be. When we were talking about and I know we're going back and forth and we're not exactly as structured. Right. This is a conversation. And I hope people in the audience don't mind. When we were talking about the various platforms, what I did recognize that you didn't use it. However, the technology is being used by each of them, whether they be Candid or Photo Day or Waldo or anybody else. They're using facial recognition.
Yes.
Are you challenged, or have you seen any challenges as a result of that? I know that the benefits are you don't have to ID. The information, they're self-registering, they're getting their pictures automatically, et cetera. Are you having to do anything? Are you receiving any negative feedback, or are you receiving any substantive feedback that says, hey, I don't want you using this service?
So the short answer is no. Now, here's all the caveats. If you want to change the color of the curtains in some places, they're going to object, right? So no matter what change you introduce in the market, somebody's going to object to it. Do we have objections? Yes, we have. We've worked through them. And we're the facial recognition is part of it. We're averaging a little bit, 65% of our graduates are signing up. And so we have to have fallback plans, because I don't want to leave, say, 30 to 35% of my revenue on the table because I don't have a backup way of identifying those students. There's just some students that are going to never do it. And so, but it's a key component of ours, because we're able to match images before that we were never able to match. So for instance, pictures of the choir singing, it's their last time together. I'm just taking every picture of the kid in the choir, because I want to make sure that mom gets a picture of her son or daughter singing for the last time with their friends. And that's available now because of facial recognition that would have been very hard to pull off 10 years ago.
So absolutely. So, and we have seen a graduation ceremony growth as a result of the use of these tools. And so that's why I wanted to focus on it. It's a completely different world than when we had to use recorders and lists and cards and a host of other things. A question, cost savings from then to now in doing in identifying and getting the work into the customer's hands. You've seen, I think you've seen, I know that we did, a significant reduction in the actual cost of getting those images to the consumer, even though there was the feeling and appearance that there was a higher cost because of fees associated with the online hosting, or the print price might be a little bit higher, et cetera. But it removes the entire all of the back end work is pulled. It's gone.
Depending, so that depends on the platform you use, right? So if you're using Candid Now, they take away all that labor from you. But we've kept a lot of that labor in house because once again, we don't want to lose that other percentage that's available. The advantage to me hasn't been necessarily the cost savings on the back end, but the sales growth on the front end.
Okay.
My price per or my sales per participant have gone up significantly, and that matters to me more. If I can save $1, those are real savings, right? But if I can increase sales $5, now did it take me $3 during that 5, or did it take me $2 during that 5? And now it's not as clean in terms of figuring out your profitability, but in terms of the top line growth has been more of a boon to me than the back room savings. Both have been playing a part. It's been the technology.
I would presume based on the significant high volume that you're doing, but anybody, the ability to just walk away from the project effectively, although you're doing stuff in-house, you're indicating, but the ability to post and walk away from it and is taken care of. How do you calculate that value how do you calculate it?
So it's a short season, right? So I've got a whole room full of people over there jamming on graduations from this past weekend, and they're going to be underwater this weekend. We're going to have crews in here from 7 in the morning till almost midnight, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, just trying to make sure stuff gets out, and we processed all those images, and it's hard. And this is a bear of a time for us. But after that, then the curve goes way up, way high, and then it stays up here for a couple of weeks, and then it drops precipitously right afterwards.
So how long are you taking to get images online?
On
average,
right now we're running at 35 hours for all of our graduates on average for right now.
24-hour clock.
Yeah.
So a day and a half.
Yeah. So
fantastic.
So that's I gotta. The great thing is I'm a conductor of a fantastic orchestra, right? I'm just up there waving the baton saying, go play louder tuba, right? And everybody's doing their part, right? I need people in the field to really execute well. And then when the stuff comes back here, the people in the ops people, they need to execute well. And then, and then it comes down to we're doing some sublimation products and plaques here and producing them in-house. We got a manufacturing department there. I've got a very solid team all the way around us. So
aren't you blessed?
I am. Yeah, it's wonderful. It's the thing that makes me. It's the thing that I enjoy most about business at this point in my life. I mean, I'm playing in the final quarter of my football game. I'm near the 2-minute warning. At this point, I'm just enjoying watching people in their first quarter develop and grow into better business people and serving clients, and that's where I get my most joy at this point in my career.
Well, I think it's a testament to your professionalism. You have always been a consummate professional in how you deal with issues and people and competitors, vendors, etc. We all of us have a certain style we live, a certain life we live, and you certainly on the positive side of that. All things that I've seen and heard, it's always been on the positive side. So I want to congratulate you on your success. I don't know if you need my congratulations.
Thanks.
But I want to congratulate you on your success, man.
Thanks.
It's beautiful. Hey, Corey, you were going to ask a question. You had somebody come in on chat?
No, I'm just popping in and out, and I'm just sharing. You got a lot of people loving you right now. You got a lot of loves and a lot of likes. It really, you're doing really great.
And they watch from Australia.
Yeah,
I know.
As I say, we are an international organization, and we're happy to see Tara. I think she's staying up to watch this, actually. I'm not sure what time it is down under. But anyway, Mark, I really want to thank you for just coming on board, taking the time out of this crazy busy part of the year just to share. So some of the high points that we get is right now is the opportunity for independent photographers all around to look at the schools, start to figure out who the contact is, start to assess and analyze what systems you might decide to use, and then start to, shall we say, pinging those particular clients that you identify and start the conversation so that you're able to ask the conversations, how did everything go? And let them tell you what little pain spot they had. And you better have an answer for that. It's not that hard to have an answer if you know what you're doing. You know, oftentimes people get out here not knowing what they're doing, but they're going to get this business, but they really don't have the answer. And then they complain, well, I didn't get the job. I don't know why I don't get the job. I do everything right. I got a great program. Your program is great in your mind, not in the mind of the consumer, if the consumer has a good program already. It's just as simple as that, folks. We don't get everything we hunt for. So, Mark, thank you so much. Corey, you got some, or no, I'm going to leave you. You got any final words, man, because we're sitting here on, you know, with our ear bent, listening.
So I would just say this: if you know, if there's people out there that are considering the grad business to get into, one, you've already got partners in the industry that could probably help you out, right? So most of the platforms now have a program that they use. In full disclosure, all my school stuff is run through Blueprint. All my grad stuff is run through Candid Color, and so I mix and match my programs for what's best for those individual things. And then in terms of if you're interested in seeking out advice from me on those platforms, just message me. I'm on the SPAC Facebook thing. I'm on Matthew's cranking the volume stuff. I'd be happy to help you out. You know, once again, I'm in the fourth quarter of my career. Just passing the ball off to other people is an enjoyable thing to me. And anyway, the other thing I would say is then once you're trying to decide, you've got, say, 25 high schools on any given weekend, right? There's two things you're going to look at. One, you're going to look at what is that high school and district worth to you, right? You got to balance that out with which high school is possibly going to bring in the most money for that individual event. Those are two different questions or two different answers. And then you just got to balance what's better for your business going through the next calendar year, right? Keeping that district happy is really key. One of the key things about graduations is it's the last thing usually where the principal's there, the superintendent's there, and some school board members are there. So you just got to be ready to hunt game so that you leave with a good impression, because you want to be the last impression you leave the district, you want to have it be a good one. And this is the event where you can do that. So, yeah.
This is the culmination of the year for every single school. Yep. And so they want it to run right. And if you can make it run right and give them fewer headaches, then that's who they want to work with for sure. Yep. For sure. Yep. Thank you so very much for joining us. And as an offer, man, that's an expensive giveaway you're doing there. But you know what? Your point about being in the fourth quarter, there's probably 5 quarters in it for you and me. But your point about being in the don't shake your head and say no.
I hope so.
The point about it being in the fourth quarter, you know, this is at the core of one of the things that SPAC is all about. We continue to pass knowledge and information amongst ourselves and between each other. And we can be in different parts of the country. We can be in the same part of the country. There's information that we have to share to make all of us better. And so, you know, I know I might be preaching, but it is what it is. This is exactly, Mark, you are exactly what SPAC is about. And we really appreciate your engagement.
Thank you.
We really do. Corey, you got any special announcements for us?
Just a few to wrap up. Okay, everybody, we are days away from the Young Creatives Scholarship that we are providing U.S. high school seniors. We're in the last days of it, but people are still applying, still sending us their transcripts and their recommendation letters. It's not too late to share it with your schools, even if you're not doing their yearbooks. Maybe you can get their yearbook business next year. But it's one of the ways that SPAC wants to fill our pipeline of young creatives, people coming into this business. So that way, maybe it's a little bit easier to find good photographers and good help. Also, I want to let you also know that we have our dates for Vegas. Just put those up. Hotel room block is already open on the website, so don't delay. As soon as the speaker proposals end, which is July 1st, that is your deadline to send in your speaker proposal. You will be contacted in August if you have any more follow-up questions. Just so everybody knows, the speaker program, basically, we have an advisory board, an education advisory board, and that is composed of SPAC attendees, a couple vendors, and they read all of the proposals sent in, and they force rank them. They score them, and then we make sure that we put the Sudoku puzzle together to make sure that we've got everything represented, schools and sports and marketing and business and yearbooks, to make sure that we have a well-rounded program for SPAC. So you'll see some of those announcements of who is going to be speaking at SPAC probably at the end of August and September. But early bird will open on August 15th. And if I were you, that is the lowest price. Just go ahead and save the money over the summer and go ahead and register in August. That way you can put that behind you. And then you will know we'll be back with the Whova app, and you can start scheduling what sessions that you want to attend. And keep in mind, folks, it's our 70th anniversary this year. So we have lots of surprises added. We are going to be doing a lot of recognitions. We're going to look back at what it was like back with the OGs sitting around a hotel room in Vegas, drinking beer and smoking cigars and talking stories about their year. We're going to have a lot of flashback memories. We're going to be
correction.
Yeah.
In the old days,
yeah,
it wasn't about no beer.
Okay.
It
liquor.
Was top shelf liquor. Shame on us, but that's the way we worked in the 60s, in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. It's a different world.
Calvin would know because his dad used to have him bring it up the fire escape stairs up to the hotel room.
That was Gary Kranz. Yes, we went up the back stairs, the service elevator with cases of libations. Corey, to the scholarship thing, do you have any idea how many people have applied? You know, this year, it was the inaugural year. We put out some money for everyone. And then during the course of the setup, we actually reached out to the camera manufacturers, and Sony responded and said, we'll give you one camera for each scholarship. So Sony is actually giving cameras along with is it $1,000 scholarship? With the $1,000 scholarship,
$1,500 cash scholarship, and included with that is a Sony camera and lens.
Okay, so in 3 parts of the country, and I don't know, do we have any knowledge about how many people have submitted so far? Any idea?
I have not run the numbers yet, Calvin. I just see them coming in. I'm filing them away. Seems to be very well responded and great applications. I got a peek to look at some of the portfolios. Was amazing. I'm excited about it. I hope everybody else is excited about it. And remember, the only way we get the word out is with all of you. Okay.
Right.
You are the ones, you're out there in the schools. It's up to you to spread the word. And like I said, at the bottom of the flyer, we left a nice open space for you to put your logo. I think the idea is once we have the winners, whoever is the one that recommended them for the scholarship or gave them the information, which is indicated on the form they fill out, we might contact you to be the one to actually deliver the camera and the check. So that way you can also get a little publicity for yourself and your business.
You know, and pushing it out to your schools or schools that you don't even do. The reality is you're sending a piece of email not asking for anything. You're not asking for an appointment. You're not asking how is picture day. You're not asking for anything. You're actually giving something through this exercise by just simply being a connector. That has tremendous value and will be more well received by administrators, school secretaries, yearbook advisors, or otherwise. Then you can follow it up, especially if you have an award going to their school, but you can follow up later because they've already seen you're willing to give in the relationship. So here we've got a scholarship program, just let them apply, etc. So get it out through your email, through your social media channels, and let's push it so that we get more applicants that we can consider for the scholarship. So cool, Corey. All right. Anything else today?
Mark, Just want to thank Mark for his time today.
Yeah.
Remind everybody that next Tuesday, it is Matt's turn with Tech Tuesday. So Matt will be on next Tuesday for Tech Tuesday, and Calvin and I will be back at the SPAC chat on the 3rd week of the month.
There we go. Thank you so much, Mark. Thanks for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. We do appreciate you. We certainly hope you're having a good spring. And if you're doing graduations, just keep your head down. It'll be through in a little bit. We got about 30 days and we'll be over. Okay, so have a wonderful week. Talk to you soon.
Everybody.
Bye, everybody. Thank you, Mark.
Bye-bye.